Hi everyone. Oh, sorry, just sticking on my new gloves. I got some copper. No, these aren't the copper one. They are compression gloves for my carpal tunnel because I'm old. Hi Nova. Hey Cassandra. Hey Maureen. Deb. Okay, so before I start today, my disclaimer. I have a lot more cutting tools than I thought. So, the good thing is that means I have a lot of stuff to share with you. The bad thing is I look like a hoarder. So, I guess we will get started. So I'm going to kind of intersperse between cutting materials or cutting tools and rulers just because you kind of need to use both at the same time. I also brought a selection of different writing utensils that I will be needing to use. Hi Beth, Norma. Thanks Maureen, but my body definitely feels it. Hi Gail. Okay, so I have a couple of scrap pieces of vinyl that I'm going to be using just to demonstrate on. And we're going to start with like the basics. So you can't get any more basic with rotary cutters than your usual Fiskars. Yes, Crystal, our other title is hoarder. And look, 3 people already agree with you. Emmy, they are. I just got them, but I like them so far. So, alright, so this is your typical Fiskars one that you can find literally anywhere. So you could go to like Target and find them. It has this little button right here that you push in and then you push down, and it takes this safety shield down, so it will reveal the blade. So that's how you cut. When you're not cutting, please make sure that it's up. All about the safety. And then this one is also by Fiskars. And this one is only different because it has this button right here and it's a little more ergonomical. And you push in and you wait till you hear it lock. Hopefully you heard that. So push in and it locks. And then you push this little circle here to disengage. And then so since we're starting with the basics, we're going to start with a basic ruler too. So this is just a normal Fiskars one. I have 2 of these, I think, because I couldn't find one, and then I got another one, and then I found the first one. So one of the things that I use a lot are the little lines in between, so the gridded lines. I don't just use the regular inch marks, but I use these straight lines right here, so like down on the 1 inch mark and a 2 inch mark to kind of help me line things up. So if I know that I need to make a 1 inch wide cut, I will, I'll show you on here. I will line it up. Actually, I will line the raw edge of the material up with this middle line right here. So let me flip it around so that it's actually the 1 inch. So if it makes sense, my raw edge is on the 1 inch line, and then my end of the ruler is going to be where I'm cutting against. Because if I have it this way, I can't cut at 1 inch because the ruler's in the way. So I measure from the inside line to the outside of the ruler. And then you just take your cutter and make sure it's lined up. And just do a clean slice. So This was my original edge on the bottom, and this top edge is the one that I just cut. So you have also heard me talk about squaring off your edges, and that is probably one of the things that saves me the most time. So I had already cut a straight line on here with my ruler. So you can look at these other edges and know that they're not straight, because obviously it's jagged right here and right here. And this one looks a little straight, but it might not actually be 90 degrees with this one. And that's what your goal is, to get to 90 degrees. So right now I have my straight edge on the bottom. So I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to line up that bottom straight edge that I just cut with any of these straight lines on the ruler right here. So any of these horizontal lines. So I pick one of the horizontal lines. So say I'm going to use the 12-inch one, because I want to make sure that it is enough to get to the top and the bottom of my piece. And so I'm lining up the 12-inch line directly with that bottom straight edge. So when I do that, let me tilt this down a little more. Let me know how the angle is for you, because I'm trying to get it so that you can see me and the mat. But you can see right here, it's wider on this side than it is here, because either, you know, I bought it from somewhere and they made a wonky cut, or I made a rough cut somewhere to get another piece off of here and I didn't cut it straight. But if I'm cutting strips, I don't want to deal with this. So I line it up on the 12, or whatever number you pick. And, whoops, just cut. So now I have a straight end here and a straight end here. So these two are 90 degrees, and these two with the obvious jagged edges are not straight. So what I could do is go through and square them all off, but I'm not going to, because at least I have these to work with, so that I don't have, you know, I can start with this end and work my way this way. Stop me if you have any questions so far, but with that said, we're going to switch some tools. So we talked about the regular fisker. Now we're going to move on to Olfa. So I have 3 different Olfa ones. So this is the, I don't know, the regular one. So this one also has a safety lock. And it's this red button. So you push the red button, squeeze the trigger, and the blade moves out so that you can cut. And please, when it's not in use, push the button back in so that you can't squeeze anymore. So that one is the 45 millimeter. This one is the 25. So the 25 doesn't have the same squeezing mechanism as that one does. It has more of like the Fiskars one. So this one, you just slide this down and that shield comes down and reveals the blade. And the same with this cute little one. So this is a 18 millimeter, and reveal the blade and put it back up. And we're going to switch rulers. So one that I reach for a lot, and I know Nova loves these too, are the ones that are see-through and gridded that are flexible plastic. So every single 1/2 eighth of an inch is a square box. And then at the very top where the numbers are, you can see that each little square box has a dash in the middle of it. So that's a 16th. So if you have to get that precise, you definitely can. This makes it a lot easier to do that. And I also like that this has the little holes right here in the middle so that you can choose to make a mark or line it up somewhere. So for example, if I had to draw a zipper box, I'm gonna grab a extra fine Sharpie and I am going to draw, say, a 7-inch line. So I'm just going to line this up here. I'll line this up with the bottom straight edge, just so that I know my line is straight. And I'm going to draw 7 inches across. So this is my 7-inch line. And you want to make sure that it is equidistant from your two sides here. So what you could do there is you take 7, divide it in half. Sorry, some of what I do is math based. So that makes it 3.5. So you want to make sure that you pick the midpoint, which a lot of patterns have you show or have you go ahead and mark the midpoint of your edges, right? So say this one had you do that, and it is this line right here. So I would line that up with that middle line. So right here is that middle line. Beth, it's the Dritz see-through quilting ruler or something like that. So this is my midline right here, and I just happen to pick the number 7. So I know I'm going to want to go 3.5 inches both ways. So I draw, actually, I'm going to move 1/2 inch out so that I am not drawing directly on top of the other line. So I'm going to draw 1, 2, 3.5 this way, and 1, 2, 3.5 this way, so that I know, because I use the midpoint, that my line is equidistant from the middle. So this line is the one that I measured the middle. This one is the line that I did not. So you would close your box and then, draw the line in the middle and then cut as necessary for your zipper box. So that's the nice thing about this, and it's very lightweight. It's cheap, so you don't have to worry about ruining it. And then my ultimate favorite, and I know I get a lot of questions every time I bust this one out. So this one is the Fiskars ruler, rotary ruler combo, I believe. So I got mine from Joann's. You can get it at Amazon or many other places online as well. I just got mine on Joann because I had a coupon. So it has a rotary blade with it in here, and it's just a standard 45 millimeter. And it is set on this track. It cannot cut anywhere except for along this one edge. So the important thing to remember is that this edge is where your ruler starts. So right here, so this is a 6-inch wide ruler. So they're doing you a favor and measuring, they're counting this already as your 0, and this is 6.5. I lied, it's a 6.5 inch ruler. So if you only need something that is 1 inch, you're going to measure to where this line is. Otherwise, you are at, if you measure to here, because that's your first inch mark, you're actually only measuring 2 inches instead of the 1 that you need. So on these, it's a little confusing because I try to hold it this way and I'm like, okay, wait a second, I can't cut anything here because there's no material. So what I have to do is I flip it, and then I again use that straight edge that I had made earlier to line it up with one of the main inch marks on the interior of the ruler. Penny, remind me. So another way that I can make sure that I am 90 degrees is lining it up with that inch mark that I did. So for example, in here I did 3 inches wide, and then also measuring right here horizontally with one of the edges as well. So if the two of them line up, then I know that I am 90 degrees and good to go. So for this one, I went ahead and I made that cut. So this one does not have like a safety retracting thing or anything, but it only cuts when you put pressure down on it. So it's kind of like, feels like it's on a spring or something. So it won't cut if it's just like this. But the minute you put your palm on it and put pressure down, it'll cut. So I really like to use this one for things like straps, handles, handle connectors, basically big or small rectangles and squares. And that's because I know the length of it, which there are 24 measured inches from here to the top where the Fisker's line ends. And we're going to switch rulers again. So now I just have one from Amazon that I got. I think it's just a regular non-slip one. So this one is Valen wood, Vallen wood, the quilter's ruler. And again, this one has all of the same lines basically as the other ones that we've looked at. But this one does have the color coding, which kind of makes it a little easier. So I know that the teal lines are going up and down every quarter inch. No, every half inch, I'm sorry. So this is your edge. So this first teal line, that's half an inch. And then you have 1 inch. And then you have 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, so on and so forth, all the way to 6. The non-slip of this one is actually pretty good. I haven't had any issues with it sliding. This one is 6 by 12. So you have those teal lines, and then in between your teal lines, you have 2 different lengths of black lines. So your quarter lines are the longer, thinner, I guess, marks. So this is a quarter, and then you come to the inch, which is 2/4 or an inch, and then you come to 3/4, then you come to 4/4 or an inch, etc. And then what you have in between those is your 1/8 of an inch. So it's the shorter, bolder lines. And that was going horizontally. So for vertically, you have less lines, but they also try to, I guess, coordinate what the lines look like. So the inch marks, so this is your 2-inch mark right here. So they didn't do it every inch for their horizontal lines. They did it every 2 inches. And so that is this first bold dash right here. That's your 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth. The other thing I like about this one is it has numbers on both edges. So both this side and this side, and this side and this side. So I had a question about how to keep rulers in place when you're cutting. If you notice, I didn't use anything except for my hands when I cut the other ones. So this is a Ami grip by Ami Grid. So it's also got the non-stick or non-slip on the back. This one is 2.5 inches by 12.5 inches. And that 1/2 inch is actually really nice, especially when you're doing things that are exactly 12 inches or doing things that are exactly 2 inches, so that you kind of have a little extra space. So for this one, if I wanted to cut a 1 inch strip, or actually let's do 1.5. I can line up my 1 inch mark with the edge of the fabric. And then because this is 2.5 inches this way, I would be good to cut there. So I don't know why I did it this way when I am right-handed. And you just make your cut. My blade is bad because I have not replaced it lately, so that's when I'm going to run into things like this. So generally what I do is just go in and cut those little spots that didn't cut before, either just with your rotary cutter or a pair of scissors you could just use. Oh, anyways, as I was saying with the ruler grip thing, so this is I think this is by Omni Grid as well. It has little suction cups and a little plastic grip thing. So all you do, suction cup it to the ruler, and you can use that to hold. Especially if using rotary cutters makes you nervous, a grip like this makes it easier for you to hold, and gives you a little more peace of mind that your fingers aren't gonna like get sliced off in the middle. So other rotary cutters, yes, I have more. This is the Kai 5045. This is the 45 millimeter one. And this one doesn't have like a little squeezy button or anything. This one automatically cuts, kind of like the rotary ruler, when you depress it. So like I didn't have to do anything. This is it. Like the blade is covered and everything right here. And I can just press down and cut, and it will do the cutting, and then it will automatically go back. So if you are someone who will forget to put your safety feature back, this is a good option for you. The grip is, I want to say you can like put like ruler handle or something, but this one is by Omni Grid. There are bigger ones that I really wish I knew where they were, because I have one, but it's like gigantic. It's, I don't know. It's like this big and the size of like an old wireless phone. And it kind of does the same thing, except it has these suction cups that attach via a little switch on the side. Penny, you have to get the Omni Grip by Omni Grid. So Omni Grid will have the rulers that have like all these extra measurements and dashes, but their Omni Grip line is what is like all this yellow green that's on here. So that's a totally different feeling on the back, and it adds texture to the back so that there's friction, so that it's not like totally smooth and doesn't just slide all over the place. Hi, Anne. I actually bought a sharpener. You know what? It'd be really nice if I knew where that was too. But I bought a sharpener and I haven't really had a chance to use it, so I don't know how well it works. But I will get back to you on that. Alright, my last couple of rotary cutters. So this is OmniGrid / Kai. So apparently they did like a little, I don't know, collaboration or something. Oh, by the way, this Kai does have a top that's just like this, but I lost it. So this does come with like a plastic cover on it. So this one just pops off, and then same thing as the Kai. It does not cut until you press it down and put pressure on it. If you noticed on the ends, I put like little binder clips on them so that I can hang them either on my pegboard or on my carts, etc. And then this one I saved for last. So this is my favorite. This is the Martelli Ergo rotary cutter, and this is the 45 millimeter. I just ordered the 60 millimeter one today online. So this one looks weird. When I first got it, I was like, how am I supposed to cut with this? But so this circle right here is where you can put your thumb, and you're going to hold the handle like this. So you can see that my wrist is in a more like natural position versus using one of these, and I'm kind of like, my arm has to kind of be up, but my wrist kind of has to be down, but I have to put pressure on it at the same time. So this one, you put your thumb here, and then you take your index finger on the other side, and you see how I did that. So you just take it, take this little lever, and bring that back, and that reveals the blade. So next ruler. I just picked this one up. This is the Omni Edge by OmniGrid. I believe Nova, one of the, I've seen this in somebody's videos recently. And it got me to go get it because I really liked all the gridded lines. So it's got, you know, the typical gridded lines here. And then you've got like this insane amount of like super, super, super gridded lines down here. So if you need to do something that's very precise, generally that's smaller pieces for people who quilt. You would use this area down here. That's why the numbers start down here. Or when you're cutting longer pieces, you have all the way up to 36 inches. So this ruler is 3 by 36. So you can measure out an entire yard, and it's got this little grip and extra piece on the edge, which is great because then you're not like trying to hold at the 36-inch mark and cut 36 inches at the same time. And then it's got this little black plastic thing that you can just theoretically take off. Maybe I have to slide it off. Anyways, you can take it off, but I'm struggling with my gloves right now, so it's staying on. So that one's good for your longer pieces. But I like to use as small of a ruler as I can get away with, for, you know, depends on whatever pattern I'm using. because the bigger the ruler, the harder it is to wield around, and I guarantee I will knock something over. Yes, the black lip is for the edge of your table. So you can put it, like line it up here. I have mine the wrong way, so let's just flip it upside down. But it will kind of keep your ruler still, so it's not moving. It like gives it an edge to sit up against on the edge of your table. Or it can do that to your cutting mat too. And then I have an electric pair of scissors. So these I got off of Amazon. This one is by Stalwart. So Stawart. And this charges with a regular AC adapter. Goes right in here. And it has a safety button right here. So go ahead and click that up, and then you squeeze the trigger here to cut. So it is super loud, but it will cut very well, and it cuts cleanly. But obviously you cannot use that with your ruler. So I don't use it for super precise cutting because I am not very good at precise cutting when I don't have a straight edge against it. But it's good for like doing rough cuts, which I will do before I get into like bigger cuts. So if I know that I need a yard of this fabric and I have it on 3 yards, then I will do a rough cut at 1 yard and then only take that 1 yard to my cutting table to cut my pieces out of that, so that I'm not wrestling with 3 yards on here. Sorry. All right, so this one does come with 2 different blades. There is a heavier fabric blade, which is the one that I have on here right now, because I only use this to cut vinyl or foam. And then there's like a lighter blade that you can use with quilting cottons and the like. So I actually just bought, like it just came in today. I got a electric rotary cutter. So I had gotten one before I got these, and I didn't like it because 1, it was loud, 2, it was really hard to control. So, but I spent the money and got a little nicer of one, hoping that it will help when I have all my vinyl for my shop that I have to cut. Because I really can't see myself using this and, cutting 240 yards of vinyl. It's just not gonna, I mean, it would take a long time and my hands would probably hurt. So when I get that up and going, I will let you know how that goes. So believe it or not, we have gone through all of my rotary cutters. But then I have a scissor problem too. So let's bring all those over here. So 3 of these are not even out of the packaging yet. So I guess it's a good thing. It forces me to take them out of the packaging. So this isn't including all the like normal, typical Fiskars ruler or Fiskars scissors that you have with the orange handles, or just regular office or craft scissors. So we will start with the pinking ones. So this is, I actually got this from IKEA. And if you don't know what pinking scissors are, they are so, when you cut fabrics that fray, it helps prevent it from fraying. So it will still fray, but it will fray less. So let me actually cut a piece off of here so I can use that. Uh-oh. What'd I do? This one's not sharp, I forgot. Okay, see the difference between a sharp blade and a not sharp blade? The other one didn't want to cut it all. Or maybe Tammy should just go through and replace all her blades. Sorry for the noise again. So, if I cut these with regular scissors, so these are my ginger scissors, just regular, I want to say that these are like the dressmaker shears. So I can just make a cut, but if you mess around with it enough, it'll fray. So imagine you're sewing with this and you're touching them, going back and forth, and then you'll get these frayed edges. So these, if you take, and I like to do this with like my seam allowances, because I hate when those fray and I'm trying to sew around them. You just make a cut and you don't have the same thing, because there's not one piece of thread that is sticking out that you can pull and it unravels everything else. Delva, what do you mean that they're so hard? You have to, like, they're hard as in you have to put a lot of pressure on them, or they're hard to squeeze, or what? So these ones are the only pinking scissors that I've ever had, so this is all I know. And it has gotten through some pretty thick layers before. So every time I need to notch a curve or clip into a curve, I will use these instead of using regular scissors to cut out little V's, because I don't have the patience to do that. So these ones are, I mean, they're definitely not as easy to use as my other ones. But like I said, this does get through some pretty thick layers, and it was, I want to say, like, I don't know, maybe $10. They also do make pinking rotary blades. I remember we found that out in somebody's live. Cannot remember whose. So I have those, and then I have like the normal, like thread snips. Then I have these. So these are thread snips, and they don't have a brand on them. I got them off Amazon. But anyway, so these are the kind that all you do is just squeeze them together, which is great for when I don't want to keep my fingers in this and keep doing this all the time. So this is really good for like cutting your threads and very quick things. Like, I wouldn't sit here and try to cut a straight line with it, because one, that would be really hard with the curved tip, but I'd like the curved tip so that you can get in a little more precisely. Oh, that's a good call, Shinova. So Shinova said if they're hard to squeeze, you can use a drop of Sewer's Aid or a drop of machine oil to try to loosen up the hinges. So this is a pair of duckbill or applique scissors. These are Tula Pink. So I'm not going to lie, I got them because they were cute. But I also got them because I needed a pair of duckbill ones. So if I was cutting, I wish I had something that I could just cut that was already sewn up. If I would have thought about it, I would have done that already. Oh, I have a bunch of half-finished projects. So this is a project that I've been using or been working on. And you can see right here, I used my pinking shears, because the instructions on this particular bag was to trim the seam allowance. But I did it with the pinking shears to help with the fraying. But I didn't do a very good job because it's very crooked. But say you have, I'm trying to find an edge that is not, oh, we'll just trim and pretend. Okay, so when you hold them like this, you can see that this part is down. So when you're trying to cut, you'll want that as parallel to whatever it is you're cutting as possible. So when I'm cutting, for example, if I want to cut this seam right here, I can see the blade on my side, so I know exactly where I'm cutting, and I don't have to worry about it. But this dull duckbill part won't poke a hole through the back when I'm trying to do something that's precise and close to the face of the fabric. So good for trimming seams, good for appliques, which is why another name for them is applique scissors. So that's the duckbill. And then I also have this pair of Kai embroidery scissors that have a curve. I don't know, apparently I like curved scissors. And surprisingly, I don't love these. I use them, but I don't love them. So, I mean, they will cut, but they just, I don't know, they kind of, for Kai, they kind of feel cheap. And then, so my all-time favorite, like, normal fabric scissors are still the ginger, but we've got a couple here that I have yet to open with you, so let's do that now. So here's another pair of Binny scissors. These are by Handy Quilter. So again, these are curved, and so far, so good. So they definitely feel weightier than these Kai ones, which, I mean, it's good that these ones aren't heavy, especially if you're going to be using them a lot, but they don't feel like hefty enough. So these ones feel like it's more of a cleaner cut, if that makes any sense. And then these, it feels like there's a little more resistance between the two, and it's not consistent from like at the beginning of the cut. So like right here, all the way to the tip of the cut. So, oh, let's try to cut something. And okay, this is going to sound really weird, but does anybody like the sound of cutting fabric? Like, I just realized it while I'm cutting here, and I'm like, it's a very satisfying sound, as opposed to using crappy scissors and nothing's cutting. That is not a satisfying sound. So this one I actually got in a mystery box from, they are, what is it called? That one podcast from ZD and Mallory, Sewing Out Loud. So they had a mystery box within the last, I don't know, 6 months or something. And apparently these are ZD's favorite scissors. So this is the Famore, tells you how to pronounce it right there, 732 6-inch comfort handle razor edge scissors. So, okay, so it is German stainless steel. And my first thought is taking out of them is I like the weight because I can feel that the metal is weighty, but the handles are not. And the handles are a softer plastic, you can see that I can squeeze them together. So it's definitely easier on your hands. So let's try cutting. Hi, Belle. And, ooh, I'm digging these. I like these. So far, Femore, great. And then lastly, I have these Kai N5000 series dressmaking shears. Ergonomically soft handle, fatigue free, made of fine stainless steel with vanadium. So these are 8-inch. The style number is N5210, and these are made in Japan. And they want me to know that it's a Kai original. So taking these out, and so far I like the hold of them. I don't like scissors that have like even this. No, this is a bad example. But scissors that have like a really big opening right here, because if my hands can move around a lot, it's going to get sore quicker. So this is a pretty good size where it's not crowding my fingers, but it's also not roomy enough to make it uncomfortable, I guess. So I also like that they have these little notches here to prevent your scissors from going any further than they're supposed to. And they are the handles are a different like plastic material than these N5130 DC scissors from Kai. So far, so good. And that was a really easy cut. Okay, so I really like these because I don't feel like I have to put a lot of effort into squeezing the handles together, and they will just cut and do what I want them to do. Okay, kind of going hand with these. And then conversely, the Femore makes a more satisfying cutting noise, but obviously it is a smaller blade. So I really like both of these. I'm glad I opened them and tested them with you. And they will do obviously different jobs. So you're not going to use this to cut your whatever, your pattern. You do this. Oh, Beth, you know by now that we enable. So, couple of other random tools. So this is a, I don't know, a hardware tool doohickey that has the spring in the middle. So I got this from Harbor Freight. It came in a set of, I don't know, 6 or 8 of them. This is just the one that I keep out most. So it's like a giant pair of cuticle nippers. That's how I can equate them. So this is good for cutting zippers. So I would use this if I need to cut zippers. I will use this to remove metal teeth off of zippers, because please don't use your scissors to do that. I will use this to pry off rivets that need to be removed. Thank you, Belle and Lynn. Can you believe I used to work at Home Depot and like I'm like sitting here calling these like I don't need the cutter things. So yes, I used this most recently for cutting rivets off, and it worked very well because it's got a tip that is pointy enough to get into the area below the rivet. And then it's easy for me to squeeze since it's got the spring. So then I could squeeze and then just pop it right off. So we have those. Another ruler we didn't cover is this angle square. So we talked a lot about 90-degree angles, and this is a good way to ensure that you have 90-degree angles. Let me throw some of this away. It's getting on my nerves. So another way to make sure that you have a 90-degree angle is to use something like this. So while you're squaring off your edges, you could totally use this and mark. So I would just make a mark like that, and then take my ruler, line it up against those lines, and cut there. So that's one edge, and then you can see the other line that I drew. So then I would line it up with that line, and then I would cut along here and know that these two are 90 degrees. If there are things that you still have questions on, please put them in the comments. I have a couple more things I want to cover, and then I want to go back to my notes to make sure that I got everything else. Oh, I was super excited this week because, well, last week, I guess, because I got in my templates from Tops and Bobbins. So if you don't have acrylic templates, everybody go buy them except for Beth, because she's going to say that I'm enabling her. So these are the ones that Shinover was talking about the other day. The templates that are from by Piera. So I didn't take the little brown covering off of this one yet, but this is just a little tag to identify them. So these are the rivet templates, the purse feet templates, and the zipper templates. So I haven't even, thank you, Penny. So I haven't even taken the plastic or the paper covering off of these yet. So let's do that. Been saving this for you. Ooh. Okay. So on this one, there's multiple marks. So you have, and I just held it upside down so you couldn't even read it. So from here to this first line, that's for 1 inch strap widths. And this is for a 1 inch strap width as well, but this is for if you are doing just one row of rivets, and this is if you're doing 2 rows of rivets. So this will allow you to mark exactly where your rivets should go so that it's evenly spaced out. So likewise, this is 1.5 single, 1.5 double, and then this one measures distance. So from the top all the way down to the 3 inch mark. And then it has a little hole to hang and keep them together. This one is the purse feet one. So when I do bag bottoms, and if I'm doing purse feet, that's like one of the most important things you need to make sure is at 90 degrees. If your edges are not at 90 degrees, your purse bottom is going to be wonky. You're going to have a wonky bottom. Let's put it that way. And don't forget, if you do decide to make a purchase off Tops and Bobbins. There is a coupon code. Monica, Shanova, one of you, somebody remember what it is? So this is the purse feet template. So remember I was talking about the squared edges. All right, so this is my squared edge right here, I think. Maybe? No. Okay, we're going to pretend that this is my bag base. Happy. I'm sorry. I can't stop laughing. Okay, so how you use these, you're going to line up the corner that you are doing first for your purse feet. So if I'm starting at the top right corner, I'm going to take this corner and butt it up to that so that it is directly aligned with that corner. So she has marks on here for 1.5 inches, 2.5, 2.5, or 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4. So it is the same distance from here to here. So you want your purse feet equidistant from the long end as your short end. So depending on how big your bag base is, you will want them at different lengths from the edge. So then you would just take whatever it is that you're using to mark and draw the little circle. So this is the 2.5. Beth, I should have sent you some purse feet. Okay, so you see the circle that I have down here? So that's where I know that that's where my purse foot is going. So generally for me, I only use prong purse feet. So instead of punching a hole right there, I'm going to take my little X-Acto knife tool that I don't have right here with me because it is somewhere else. It's over there and I don't want to go get it because I'm going to trip over everything. I would just make 2 slits there and then put the prong for the purse feet in those slits. And then you can do the same thing on this end. But for this end, you don't necessarily want to use this side because they're completely different measurements. So here you have a 1 3/8 instead of 1.5. So you're going to take the same corner that you've been using. So this is the same corner we used right here. Flip it here. And now you're going to make the same circle at 2.5 inches. And then take that same corner, do that for this bottom left, and then rotate again and do that for this bottom right. So that is the purse feet template. And then we have the zipper template. I may have to have my friends help me figure out how to use this. First step, take off the brown paper. So Tops and Bobbins has different templates for stuff like this. And then, of course, they have all the wonderful pattern templates that are so beloved from different pattern designers. And for ones that they don't have, you can always email, and Denise is really nice, and maybe she will add it. Ooh, I don't know if anybody in Canada does them. I know that we found somebody in the UK that does them. I don't know if we found Canada yet. I want to say that Denise does ship to Canada. I could be wrong. Also, Monica and Shanova, if you could let me know if I actually need to keep these or not. I mean, I probably will because I'm a hoarder. But, like, I don't know what I would use them for, but they are very strong, straight pieces of acrylic. So, at the very least, I can use them as a straight edge. Okay. So, at the top, you have a 12-inch ruler. And then you have zipper sizes. So, this one is a 1/2 inch width. And this one is a 3-inch width. So depends on the look and the size of whatever pocket you're making. So generally the ones that I've made call for a 1/2 inch width. And then look, they even have the little center marks for you. So you don't have to make them. Oh, Shanova, that's a really good idea. You can totally use these to poke. Okay, so let's grab... Why did I throw that other piece? Okay, so we're going to grab a piece of fabric. We will have to see if we can find a source for them in Canada. I don't know. Maybe if we ask nicely, Emmeline will carry some. I will get right on that. Okay, so different drawing tools that I like to use. So this is not just a regular pen. It's one of the heat erase pens that I got off Amazon. So you would just measure this however far away from the top they want the zipper to be. So say they want it 1 inch away. I'm lining it up with my cutting mat, because don't forget that's a giant ruler too. And I'm going to take that mark that is 1 inch down and and line my zipper template up to that. So then I'm going to trace here. And here's my box. So this is where this can come in handy. So now I'm going to take one of these pieces and draw a line in the middle, which would be a lot easier if this brown plastic wasn't on there so that I could see the distance. You could also grab a ruler, but you know, because I don't have any of those laying around. So I am going to kind of guess where the midpoint is and I'll draw a line. And then generally, most patterns that I've seen have you draw the V's 1/2 inch away from the edges. So let me just mark the 1/2 inch mark. And then you connect your corners. And then it looks like this. So take your straight edge, which I don't want to use this because it's not longer than the actual thing that I'm cutting, and line it up where you are cutting, which is that middle line. So that's usually where we cut for a zipper, right? But you're going to do it like a little before the line. So you're going to account for the extra little space that your rotary cutter is going to take up and cut from there. So Penny, you were talking about just getting very accurate when you cut. So I'm going to start my cut after the V because I can go back and cut some more. I can't go back and uncut. So I'm going to start here and stop before I get to the edge. So right now we are at I didn't cut exactly on the line, but that's okay. So this is where I cut. So I did okay up here, but down here, which is where I started, you see I'm a little further away from the V. So I'm going to take one of my million pairs of little scissors, preferably one that doesn't have a curved tip, and go ahead and just cut that to the beginning of the point and cut those V lines as well. Penny, did I answer your question, or was there something else that you had a question about? So then you can see I got really close to the edges and then down here too. So that is the zipper. Let's see, what else did we have on the list? Let me go. I have a Google Docs that has questions. Okay, so different questions that were submitted during our contest. So one of them was, if you could get away with only one ruler in your tool set, which would it be? If I could only use one, it would be actually one that I don't own, which is really funny. It would be, where did it go? Oh, I put it back. It would be one like this Fiskars one, but I would like it 4 inches wide instead of 3, and 18 inches long, and non-slip. So the non-slip version, basically, of this. Just because, one, it's budget friendly, it's easy to find, and it is long enough yet short enough without being a pain in the butt and not being able to use it for a lot of different things. So in my opinion, something like this is the most versatile. What is the best rotary cutter and scissors for cutting out patterns and heavier material? So best is really dependent on what your needs are. So for me, ergonomics obviously is very important. So whatever's best for me might not work out for you, but we've kind of already covered it. I love the Martelli Ergo rotary cutter. But for precision, definitely go for one of the smaller ones. So a good rule of thumb is to use as small of a cutting tool as you can get away with, because that will add to your precision. So if I'm just cutting regular, like one layer of quilting cotton, I'm not going to bust out the 60 millimeter rotary cutter. I'm probably going to use this. And if it's something that has a lot of curves, I might even use this. But I'm not going to use this to cut vinyl because I don't even think that this can cut through 2 layers of vinyl just because this is so thin. I'm going to want to use something like this. And if I'm cutting something even thicker, like foam or fleece, this might not even do the job. I might want to do the 60 millimeter. Yes, Penny. So use the rotary cutter to do the straight line, and then use the scissors to get into the corner. And then we already talked about my beloved pair of gingers, which may be overtaken by this pair of Kai. I also ordered, I just ordered a pair of fabric scissors from Amazon. And it's like a more cost-effective one. It was like $18. So I will keep you posted on that. Another question. Do you cut on the line or just outside the line? I'm probably not the best person to ask. I'm probably the worst person to ask because I am not precise at all. You have seen in my videos, I am team close enough. So if I'm tracing, I will trace outside the line. So like if I'm tracing a pattern, because the pattern generally has thicker lines anyway, I will trace on the outside edge of that pattern piece. But if I'm cutting, I am cutting on, or, roughly around the line itself. So the second part of that question was, what is a scant measurement? So a scant measurement is like saying a tad bit smaller. So if somebody's saying sew that this at a scant 1/8 of an inch, it's saying sew at a little smaller than 1/8 of an inch. So basically what that's saying, and don't get caught up in the minutia of it all, but your designer is basically saying it doesn't have to be precise, but they don't want it at an 1/8 of an inch because of maybe spatial reasons or some kind of design reason or something that they have going on later in the step. So if they say a scant, just look at whatever they said. So if it's an 1/8, look at an 1/8, and then go a little smaller than that. How to cut an even square. We talked about that with 90 degrees. Best grid ruler. We talked about that, especially because it is very cost effective. So it is this Dritz see-through ruler. We talked about my Giant Fiskars rotary ruler cutter. Right now I only have scissors, but I'm very interested in rotary cutters. If I was to purchase one, what size would be most useful? So we kind of just talked about that too. So get the smallest one that you can get away with. So if you know that you're not cutting quilting cottons and things like that, then I would get a 45 millimeter, because that's kind of like all purpose. But like I said, if you're going to cut things that are thinner or need like super precision, go smaller. So the best ruler to buy for bag making, well, clearly I have no idea what the best ruler is, because if I did, I wouldn't have all of these rulers. But I have a small space, so it's important for me, and like I'm pretty small and I'm short, so it's important for me to have a size that is comfortable for me to wield without feeling like I'm constantly hitting myself or knocking things over in my room. Do you cut the woven material larger than the pattern size calls for? I noticed my pieces shrunk about 1/4 inch for all the pieces I added interfacing to, SF101. So I don't cut anything larger than what the pattern actually calls for. Whatever the pattern calls for, that's what I cut. So SF101 does tend to shrink, but I also have a habit of pre-washing all my fabrics before I use them. One, to clean up any of the grime, like you don't know what's been dragged around that floor in the factory or whatever. And two, it also helps with the pre-shrinkage. So when I get home, I generally serge the edges of all my fabrics, and then I will throw them in the wash. So chances are by the time that I've actually getting around to cutting pattern pieces out of it, it's already been shrinked anyway, before I even got to the interfacing. But if you use SF101, you can pre-shrink it by soaking it in warm water for 10 minutes. And I did research on this, so I wasn't giving you false and bad information. So this is from Pellon. Soak it in warm water for 10 minutes and then gently wring it out and then hang it to dry. Hang it to drip dry but hang it single layer. So don't keep it folded over because you're trying to conserve space or whatever. Just throw it over the top of your curtain rod or whatever in your shower and let it dry. I actually don't have a 6x1. I should buy one. When using the ruler, how do you keep it straight? So using the handle grippy, or there are also like grippy stickers, non-slip stickers that you can put on the bottom of the ruler. But like I said, if you kind of watched in the beginning when I used this basic ruler, like I didn't use any of that stuff. So the more often you use it, the more comfortable you'll get with it and you'll get better at it, because that, like, I got this when I first started sewing, and it was the same concern for me. I'm like, how am I supposed to keep these straight? And now I don't even think about it anymore. So let's see. So best technique for measuring and cutting. Making sure that all your corners are straight and 90 degrees. If you're not confident on your cutting accuracy, then do what I said earlier about rough cutting, and then measure whatever it needs. So if it's like 6x9, do a rough cut. So like draw 6x9 and then go through and draw a line, do a rough cut around it so that you have plenty of space if you think you're going to mess up on the cutting, and then go in and trim off like that extra 1/2 inch or whatever it is. But like I said, it's easier to work with a smaller piece of fabric, like a 1 yard cut versus like a 3 yard cut. How do I get fabric to stay in place while cutting? So pattern weights. You can use things around the house. Don't go and buy like Dritz pattern weights from Joann, because honestly it's like the biggest ripoff ever. It's like 4 little paperweights that aren't even cute for like $10. Makes no sense. So use whatever you have around the house. So I have seen all kinds of pictures and suggestions from people online. So people use silverware, like they use butter knives. Please use a butter knife, not an actual knife. They use canned goods. I have used rocks, like polished rocks that you buy at the dollar store, like in the crafting section. You know, you would put them like at the bottom of a glass vase or something. You can use washers. I know Monica uses washers. You can do what I do and use sheet metal and magnets. So underneath this cutting mat, I have another cutting mat. And then underneath that cutting mat, I don't know if you can see, but I have a sheet of sheet metal here. So I just went to Home Depot, actually technically Lowe's, and got a 24 by 36 inch piece of sheet metal, put it underneath my mat, ordered some magnets off of Amazon. So like these are the ones that I originally got, which I ended up not liking because they chip really easily. I don't know if you can see. And it bothered me to have all these little pieces all over the place. So I can put my fabric down. Do this. And like I can put how many ever on there as it's going to take. The only thing is you have to be careful, because obviously when you cut with your rotary cutter, it's going to want to get close to the magnet. I did get other magnets that I liked better. These are super magnetic. Like they are so magnetic, I'm afraid to try to get it away from. So they are these rectangular silver bars. So these aren't going to chip like these are. And they will also hold down more surface material because they're longer. And they're also not thick, so they won't like protrude. The hardest part is going to be trying to get them apart. So like this, I would just put it here. And like this, you see how this edge wants to curl up? And, well, I was going to hold this up and say, see, it stays in place, but when I did that, it took the metal sheet away, so it slid. So that didn't work quite how I wanted it, but that's the idea. How do I cut fabric at an angle? So dealing with bias cut. So bias cut means cut at a diagonal angle from your grain line or your selvage. So, holy crap. Do not get your finger like stuck in these. These are intense. It's dangerous. Keep that away from kids. Yes, it's another ruler. So this is the Shape Cut by June Taylor, and it actually has slits in it every half inch. So it has 12 inches this way, 12 inches this way, and then it has degree lines. So it has 45 degrees. So if I was taking this piece of fabric and I need to cut at an angle at 45 degrees, if I line this up with the 45 degree line, stop me if I get too far off. So it said 45 degrees there, right? So I line it up here. So now if I cut across any of these slots, so like if I put my rotary cutter through, oops, and cut there, assuming that my piece that I started with was straight, remember I squared off the edges, this is going to be 45 degrees. So if this was a regular piece of quilting cotton, that would mean that it was cut on the bias. So reasons why you'd want things cut on the bias is it has more stretch to it, even if it's just regular woven cotton. And it has mechanical stretch. So it's just in the way that it's woven, and it's not because it has Lycra or anything in it. So it's got the mechanical stretch. I mean, even this, you can kind of see a little bit. So it'll conform around your edges and your curves better. So if you were using this to bind a project that had round edges, it would go ahead and conform around those edges because it can stretch, versus if you just cut a strip of fabric, any strip of fabric anyway, and try to do that, it's not going to do the same thing. You're going to get bunches or bunching. So that's important when you are using woven materials. So quilting cotton, canvas, things like that. Not so much when you're using leather or vinyl. So, okay. That was a long time to talk about rulers and scissors. So, anybody have any other questions about any of the tools that I've talked about today, or anything relating to any of that? I am currently working with a supplier right now for the box. slash my site. So I am working on sourcing things for bags. So if you have any suggestions or things you want to see, maybe things that are hard to get, or you just want to be able to buy this at the same place that you buy, your hardware or whatever, shoot me a note. I am open to suggestions. And if no one has anything else, we can log off. So I believe this weekend we are sewing along with Shanova back to Swoon bags. So we're going to watch her do the Frankie with the latch on the top, which I'm excited for. And then next week on the 18th, I am doing the convertible bag with Mrs. H. So that's the 18th and the 21st. I believe we have a Q&A in Mrs. H with Sherry from Cork again. There's a fabric masterclass next Wednesday. That's this Wednesday. And next week is also the Squiffy Sling. So, all right. If anybody has anything else, feel free to send me a message. Otherwise, I will see you all this weekend for the Frankie. Have a good night.